Kristen.
And I'm Bethany.
And this is Looking for the Middle,
the Christian Girl's Guide to Modern Dating.
We're here to help you date with confidence while honoring the Lord and to show you that your identity and contentment are in Christ. We're going to give you the tools that you need to date successfully and be set up well for success in a godly marriage.
If you've ever felt like you didn't really belong with any of the extremes in dating today, well, you're not alone. Neither did we. And that's why we're here, looking for the middle.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode where we are very excited because we have a guest today. It's not just the normal me and Bethany.
Boring old us.
Yeah. So back in December, as many of you know, we did a series called The Men Tell All, where we interviewed 3 of our guy friends. Well, one of them was my brother, but he's my friend, so we'll call him that. But because we wanted to get a guy's perspective on dating and relationships and all of that jazz. And the age range for those 3 guys was like 24, 25 to mid 30s. And after that series, which y'all loved, which is great, but we had a lot of listeners start reaching out to us saying they were in high school or college. And we know that high school dating specifically is quite different from dating in your late 20s. So we thought, why don't we bring in another guy who can speak to that, who's had wild success with high school dating. So we have Dylan here today. Dylan, say hi.
Hey, how are y'all?
And Dylan is my little sister's boyfriend. Y'all have probably heard me talk about them a few times. But they have been dating for 3.5 years.
Yes, 3.5. It'll be 4 in September.
In September, gosh. So Danielle has the longest record for a relationship in the family, which is great. She's like praise hands in the corner right now. So Dylan is going to grace us with his wisdom as to how he has been so successful with dating in high school today, and tell us a lot of other things that we want to know about guys. So we're just going to go ahead, and we don't have any housekeeping, do we?
I can't think of anything.
Okay.
Yeah, not that I know of.
Okay, cool. Well, let's just jump in then. So Dylan, will you start? I mean, we've already said your name, but you can say your name again. Your name, your age, your occupation, and your, well, we already covered your current relationship status. I'm getting ahead of myself, but you can say all that for yourself.
That's all right. My name's Dylan Tillery. 19 years old. I'm currently a college student. Just finished up my first year. And obviously I'm dating your little sister.
There we go.
Okay, so let's just start off with, I was going to say, what are you? But I guess it would be, what did you look for?
Yes.
So like when you're looking to date someone, what are like the top things that you're looking for? And I think for all of the other guys, we kind of said like faith is a given.
Yeah.
So not that, but like what are like the top things that you look for in someone?
I like someone who's fun, someone who I can have fun with, not super serious. Laughter and being goofy is usually something that I really look for. And someone who I can actually like, have a conversation with that's, intelligent as well, not being able to like just it always be goofy. There's a fine line that I like to have between serious and goofy so that we have a well balanced relationship and it's not all one way towards goofy or serious.
Yeah. I think balance is important in a lot of things. Yeah.
I think so too. Okay, so this is one of my favorite questions in the whole interview because I just feel like this is one of the most confusing things about guys. But what are some things you do to let a girl know that you like her?
Like I'm in a relationship with you, and so I'm going to let you know that I like
pre like when you and Danielle were like starting to flirt, like what did you do to be like, oh, I want to make sure she knows I like her?
Yeah. So personally, I'm a very flirty guy. Especially when Danielle and I first started getting to know each other. I mean, she'll tell you it was pretty obvious that I liked her. If I'm talking to you, flirting with you, you'll know. Some guys aren't like that, but I am. I like to be a little bit more forward with it. I don't like to leave girls, guessing. They're gonna know that I like them.
It's a fantastic quality.
I know.
So when you flirt, like, did you compliment her? Did you did you just try to like be around her a lot? Like all of the above?
It was a little bit of all of the above. I would subtle compliments. I wasn't trying to be outright like, oh my gosh, you look drop dead gorgeous. I wasn't that forward, but like little compliments like, oh, your hair looks good, or I like the way your outfit looks. Little things like that, but I would try to spend as much time as possible with the girl. Maybe see if there's some potential there. When for example, when Danielle and we met right before school started, our sophomore year, and the first week of school, well, I went to a Christian school, and that first week we had like games and stuff. It was called House Week, and it was a big competition that went throughout the year, but they liked to kick the year off with that. And I think throughout that first part of the year, I was pretty much on her hip constantly. We pretty much never left each other's side, which made it easy because Danielle was the new girl, and she was, the hot commodity. Everyone wanted to date Danielle. Me being forward and presenting myself and always being with her really, I wouldn't say came to advantage because it's not really a competition, but kind of is.
Yeah.
Hey, it makes sense. I love telling the story of when Danielle first met Dylan because, and I mentioned this, Danielle won't care that I'm saying this. No, she's shaking her head. So before Dylan, Danielle had a different crush like every 3 weeks. So the joke was my brother Brett would always say, Danielle, I will care about your boyfriend when you care about him. Because this just needs to be something a little more long term. So it was really funny. But when Danielle first met Dylan, like you said, it was the week before school started, and she would come. I still lived at home, and so she would come home, and Dylan this and Dylan that, and Dylan's so cute. And me and Dylan did this, and then I went and saw Dylan at football practice, and my mom and I were both like, okay, who is this kid? And then sure enough, he's like part of the family now, 3.5 years later. So it was very obvious that Dylan was very present, which I liked because you didn't keep me and my mom guessing, much less Danielle. So I respected that. I thought that was very cool. And I think it's such a simple thing, but I feel like it's the best thing you can do is to just be around her if you like her.
Clarity can never be overstated, overvalued, overemphasized. Like clarity either way, I think is really important. And that's what kind of goes into our next question. So on the flip side, let's say you're not interested in a girl, but you kind of start getting the feeling that she is. Like, what are some things you do to let a girl know, hey, I'm not interested? Like, how would you handle the flip side of that? So
with being very forward and present with Danielle, I'm kind of the opposite in that sense. Is I just won't talk to you. I'm almost to the point where I'm kind of mean about it because I don't want a girl to get her hopes up, and because girls like to think a lot, and guys are not usually thinkers. I mean, they can be, but when it comes to relationship, it's really black or white when it comes to the first part of the relationship. And when I haven't had to do this in years, but I remember before I met Danielle, if girls were like me, I would just stop talking to them. I guess ghosting would be the term that people use now, but I was pretty bad at ghosting girls and not letting them have any closure, which I kind of regret in some senses because I feel like I hurt a lot of girls' feelings. Not that I'm a lady killer, but if you're gonna break things off with a girl, I would definitely be forward about it and not go about the way I did.
Yeah, don't drag it on.
Yeah, don't drag it on.
Okay, Dylan. So I know a little bit about your dating history before Danielle, but that's not really my business, so you don't have to go into that. But what are some, generally speaking, things you wish you would have done differently in your dating history? Or if you could go back and change something.
Go back and change something. Danielle and I have talked a lot about this. In high school, her and I were pretty much inseparable, and we didn't leave a lot of room for friends. It was after school, I would go to Danielle's house, or Danielle would come to mine after football practice, or so on and so forth. And when it came time to, the point in my life where I maybe needed a friend or she needed a friend, they weren't always there, and it was each other. And that may have been a point when we were fighting, or when we were, having a disagreement. And I really didn't have anyone to turn to at that point. So if you're going to get into a relationship in high school, definitely don't exclude your friends. Make sure that you have good people that are still surrounding you that you can talk to and bounce things off, because relationships are not smooth. There's a lot of rocky parts that you're gonna have to go through. But in terms of before I met Danielle, that was a sophomore. I just finished up my freshman year, so I didn't really have a lot of serious relationships. It was a lot of just I talked to this one girl for maybe 3 years before that. you know, it wasn't the greatest relationship. It wasn't, but again, we were in middle school. You know, middle school relationships are like, oh hey, you're so cute. A text message. You're not doing much. You're not talking in person. I mean, I remember it took me 2 years to talk to this girl in person. We would text over like Twitter DMs and stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay. I think that's good advice though. We talk about I mean, that's something you can take from high school all the way up is to make sure that you know you have friends and you're prioritizing that. And I remember there were girls in high school who they would be your friend when they were single, and then they'd start dating somebody and all of a sudden they were never there, and then they'd break up and then they'd come back, and you know, it was hard for them because you know you went through, like, you've got to learn to balance both. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
In a lot of ways, I think comes into play a lot, especially in high school though. Like, I think that even more you got to balance. Okay, like if you or I met someone now, it's like, oh, okay, well, we could be getting married soon. Like, that's a piece, like you're looking to that end on a more speedy timetable.
Yeah.
But in high school, that's not going to happen, especially as a sophomore.
Right.
Anytime soon. And so that balance, I think, comes into play even more because you have to balance it against the length of time that this is going to take. Too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, so obviously it worked out for you dating in high school, but regardless of that, in general, what are your thoughts and opinions on dating in high school as a whole, not like to your specific, you know, situation?
See, that's kind of tricky because dating in high school, from my experience with talking with the friends that I did have, a lot of them were not dating to, you know, look for a potential wife. They were dating to, you know, maybe, as sad as it is, get lucky or, you know, have, you know, just someone to hang out with, which, you know, isn't the right way to go about it, in my opinion. A lot of guys are trying to, unfortunately, have wrong intentions. So if you can go into the mindset with still looking for a potential partner, because you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to. Now again, don't go and say you're going to get married to your high school girlfriend. There's a big dichotomy.
Yeah.
But you know, just go in it with the right intentions. Don't go in it with trying, you know, doing more than you have to. It's high school. You know, everyone is still learning. A guy's brain fully doesn't develop till 25. You know, so of course I still don't have everything together. No guy in high school is going to have anything together. So, you know, kind of being cautious in high school is really something that I view as important. Not putting yourself all into one person.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
I think so too. So then, what would you say were some of the most challenging parts of dating in high school?
So for me, I went in as all in on one person, which is Danielle, and so far it's worked out.
Right.
which has been a very good blessing, and I'm very grateful for that. But you know, the challenges of dating in high school, you just have so much else going on, especially when you get to that part when it's your senior year and you have, you know, college coming up, or you have plans to get a job or whatever you're going to do. Like, that might not work out. Luckily, Danielle and I figured out a way to make it work, but it's a big struggle. Just finding balance is something that was hard. You know, balancing sports with your relationship, balancing, you know, what your family has to say, because your family is still a big part of. You're still under their house. You're still have to abide by their rules. You know, big challenge of being in high school is those hormones are going.
Yeah.
They're, you know, abiding by those rules as well is a big struggle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to be ungodly in your relationship as well, and high school is hard in general.
Yeah, it really
it's
is.
a rough time of life.
It is a very rough time.
Well, and you think about too that, you know, when you're dating when you're our age, we've already, that makes me sound so old saying it like that, but you already kind of have your life set. Like, you have your job, you know where you're living, like you know, got a car, like all this stuff. And, you know, you're getting your first job in high school, and you're going to school, and you're, you know, paying for things for the first time, and then you figure all that out, and then your life totally changes as soon as you leave. And so not only are you like navigating all your firsts of adulthood, quote unquote, as you're kind of getting out of high school, but then you're navigating all this transition, and then you throw in a relationship that overlaps. Like, I have a lot of respect for people who date through all the way through that the same person, because it's got to be hard with all that y'all have going on.
There was a lot of firsts for Danielle and I. First jobs, Danielle had a job before I met her, but for me, first jobs, we got our licenses, college applications, cars, the things going wrong, Danielle's aneurysm, those hard times that, came through all that. And then when you get to senior year, it's just even more of it, It's just, you got to worry about those things.
Yeah, I mean, it's from high school till you graduate college is just one transition after another. And then once you graduate college, the next major transition is getting married. And so it's just kind of, however long that, time period is, it's just building on itself once you graduate college. If it's 2 years, if it's 12 years, it just kind of builds on itself, but there's not a huge turnover as much. And so, coming through all of those transitions on top of putting a relationship in there it's a lot.
It is.
So, okay, so we don't want to be depressing. So now let's balance that with what are some of the fun things of dating in high school, or the perks, or things that are nice about maybe specifically in high school?
One of my favorite parts of dating in high school was I always did feel like I had someone that was with me going against the world, trying to conquer high school. And you had someone to hug after a sports game if you lost, or if you won, you got to go celebrate with that special someone. It was always fun. And then especially when you're friends and you get relationships and you can all hang out together. And there was a lot of perks with dating in high school, especially keeping with the same girlfriend in high school as well. Just the biggest thing was having that person next to me at all times. That was my favorite part.
That's cool. That's sweet. I'm like, oh, sitting here like, that's so cool. Okay, so moving on, what would you say, Dylan, is the best dating advice you've ever been given?
So I have two things for this. My first one is, and this applies for marriage as well. So this is kind of a catch-all thing that I've been told, is never go to sleep mad or have an unresolved. You can still be upset with the person, but don't go to sleep unresolved. Because if you go to sleep, you have all night, that lingers. And then you don't want to get up the next day and immediately start talking about it again. So then it lingers even farther. And then it comes down to, 3 days go by and you still haven't resolved the situation that's been lingering in the background. And it builds up and up. So Danielle and I have always, never gone to bed without, at least telling each other that we loved each other, or that we're sorry, or that we're going to work on something. I didn't mean to say this, or she didn't mean to say that. And it's helped a lot. There's been many nights where we've, stayed up outside in the driveway, yelling at each other because we were upset. But ultimately, those hard conversations and those late nights have probably saved our relationship in many senses. But the second thing I would say is patience, because along with that comes, and these are very cliche, but I like to tell Danielle that there's a reason that they're cliches, because they work. Patience is one of the biggest things that I've been blessed with, and being patient with everything.
No, I think that's super wise. I think watching y'all's relationship too has been cool, that I don't feel like y'all let things bother you for a very long time. That's something Danielle's had since she was a little kid. I mean, she'd get mad 30 minutes later, she's happy as a clam. Exactly. Whereas I pout for hours. It's a terrible quality. But that's, I think, something, like you said, that served y'all so well in your relationship, because you're not hesitant to talk it out, and you don't let things bother you for a really long time. And I think the better you get at that, the better all your relationships will be.
Yeah, communication is key. I'm sure everyone has heard many, many times, but it truly is.
Yeah, it is. Well, and it goes back to, you have to communicate to figure out the balance of your relationship. You have to communicate to have clarity. You have to communicate to resolve conflict. If you can, I say one thing I've learned over the last however long recently is that people say, oh, I want to be with someone who communicates well. And so obviously everybody does, but I've started saying I want to be with someone who can and will communicate well. And I've learned over time those are two separate things.
Those are.
You know, that like someone may be able to communicate well when they want to, or when it's convenient for them, or when it's something they want to talk about, but someone who will communicate well for your relationship is so important, but it doesn't mean it's independent, or I mean, it doesn't mean it automatically goes with someone who can communicate. There's a separation there that I think you have to look for.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's wise. Okay, so Dylan, now is your time to be blatantly honest, even though Danielle's in the room. I'm sure y'all probably already talked about this, but what are some things you wish girls would quit doing? We will not get mad at you for your answer. Neither will Danielle. I'm speaking for her.
I'm gonna take a book out of Brett's page here.
Okay.
If a guy says something, that's usually what he means.
Yeah.
I've found this a lot. I'll tell Danielle that she's pretty, and then 30 minutes later she'll come and say, "Do I look very pretty?" And I'm like, "Danielle, I told you 30 minutes ago you look pretty." But yes, I should be more reassuring, and maybe I could say it a couple more times after that. But you know, I mean that. If I tell you I like the dress that you're in, I like it.
If we could only learn to take them at face value, we would be, because the way a girl's brain works, and all the girls listening, they're probably like nodding their heads right now, because it's like we hear, like he said, I look pretty. I'm like, is he just saying that because he knows he needs to say it, or like does he actually think I'm pretty, or am I prettier than I was the other day, or like does he like this more, or does that mean something? His tone was different. Didn't Brett talk about that tone? He's like, tone means nothing.
Oh, but it does.
Oh, but it does. In a girl's brain, Danielle's like pointing or waving or something. But yeah, we really analyze every aspect of this one statement. And a guy's like, I told you look pretty. I think you look pretty. Now let's move on. And I feel like if we could just grasp that, we would be so much better off.
We have to first really grasp that when a guy says, I really mean what I say. Like, we have to believe that first. Because guys say that, and I'm believing it more. But I definitely still kind of go, well, but probably not.
Probably not.
Like, he's just saying that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think we have to just process that at face value, too. Because I think it's because we filter all of it through our brains, and we know that we don't do that. And so, like, my brain can't comprehend why someone would ever do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
That's not to say, guys, if you're listening to this, you know, try to be more reassuring. Try to, you know, watch your tone, because girls do look into that. You may have meant it, but if your tone is off, it can, you know, cause some questions. And, you know, being reassuring to a girl can be everything sometimes.
It's very true. It's great advice, people. Write this down. This
Yes.
is good. This is really good.
Okay, so earlier we talked about the challenges of dating in high school specifically. So now let's kind of like switch gears on that a little bit. So what would you say is the most challenging part about dating as a Christian guy? Take stage of life out of it.
Just Christian guys.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Christian guys, you know, avoiding those boundaries, you know, that use physical boundaries, especially, you know, premarital sex and things like that. I mean, you know, you still want to be obedient to the Lord in your relationship, and you want to make sure that He's, you know, part of everything. That's a big struggle for a lot of guys, I'm sure. Things like that. Other than that, I mean, just keeping God first in your relationship is the most important thing. If you should love God more than you love your spouse, and then it usually takes care of everything else.
It's true. We need to, you can leave this in if you want to, or you don't have to, but I want to talk to girls about what they think the hardest part of dating as a Christian is.
That's a really good idea.
And see what kind of answers we get.
Because really
we've
good
asked
idea.
the guys, and we like, the consensus has been the same for the most part, but I don't think I could pick one and be like, oh, this will be what girls say.
No.
Like, I feel like the range will be a lot wider.
I don't think I could pick one thing and say that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know what would come to mind right now.
We should put it on
Instagram.
Put it on Instagram. We'll put it in our stories.
Okay, y'all will, if you're not following us on Instagram already, I didn't do that at the beginning. If you're not following us on Instagram, you should go do that at LFTM_podcast, and I'll ask a question in stories, or Bethany, whoever gets to it first, and we'll see what girls think is the hardest part of dating as a Christian.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see the results of this one.
Me too. We like rabbit trails, in case you haven't figured that out already. Okay.
Rabbit trails are awesome.
They are. Some of our best content, I feel like, has come from rabbit trails.
So true.
Okay, so a few more questions here. Okay, Dylan, what, in your opinion, what do you think when a girl makes the first move? Or what do you think guys think when a girl makes the first move? If you want to speak for all men, we'll give you that privilege for the day.
It's your one chance.
Yeah.
The ambassador of men.
Yes, exactly.
Don't let it go to your head.
Yeah.
You only got like 20 minutes left, so.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, I'll speak for me here. I honestly do not mind it at all. You know, some guys are oblivious to what girls are thinking. You know, we're pretty simple creatures, you know. Food, sports, and, you know, if school's on your mind, that's about it usually. And then if you're wanting to date a girl, then you'll think about it. But if a girl that you think is attractive comes up to you and is, you know, makes the first move, then you're like, oh, this is awesome. I don't have to think about this as much as I had to, and I can, you know, begin to pursue that as I would if I knew that she liked me, you know.
Yeah.
Which, luckily, Danielle, when we first started dating, she made it obvious too. She never left me guessing at first, and you know, she played a little bit hard to get, but you know, eventually.
Yeah.
So you said there, like, she made it obvious, or she made the first move, and then you were like, oh, cool, she likes me, and now I can take over from there, basically. So this isn't in the notes, so my question is, do guys like that make the first move, show me you're interested, make it obvious, and then let me take over? Is that preferred to then a girl staying in the driver's seat with that?
Well,
or does it matter?
I mean, Danielle didn't make the first move, but like I still like made that first move, but
Yeah.
she made it obvious that she was interested.
Right.
I think that's, if a girl's gonna make the first move, don't set it as a precedent that you're gonna be your own wear the pants in a relationship, because you don't want the guy to like not pay for things. You don't want him to not like take initiative, not
Yeah.
plan dates, not do those things. Because if a girl comes in and is like, I'm gonna manage this relationship, then that leaves the guy to the wayside, you know, and he's not gonna try as hard.
Yeah.
And then the girl might be, you know, feeling a little bit let down, or you know, she's not as important. So if you can, I would let the guy take over if all possible. If you're gonna make the first move, you know, just say, make it as a, hey, I'm interested, not as a, hey, we're doing this Saturday night, you know.
Okay. Yeah, that's what after we had interviewed the other guys, I had kind of wanted to like circle back. I was curious about that, and then I forgot about it until you just said that.
Yeah.
So I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
I only listened to Brett's podcast.
Yeah.
Did all the other guys say something similar to that, or?
They all were, they were
in favor
fine.
of it.
Yeah, with girls making the first move. Yeah, which shocked us.
That all
All of
everyone
them said
was.
that. Because we talk a lot about how there's a way for you to show a guy you're interested without having to make the first move if you don't want to be like the one to ask him out.
Okay, so then you've talked a lot about being confident and being assertive and making it obvious how you feel. Not all guys are like that. So for those guys who may not be as confident or bold in that area, what would you say to encourage them to not be fearful or nervous or hesitant to just ask a girl out? Like if someone was like, oh, I really like this girl and I want to ask her out, but I'm like, ugh, too nervous. What would you tell someone?
The worst thing they can say is no. You may get your ego hurt a little bit. You may, and for those guys that are insecure, I've seen a lot of guys do this. Do not ask a girl out in front of a crowd. To take that huge step and like swing for the fences. You know, will you go to homecoming with me in front of the whole gym? Don't do that. Especially if you're gonna want to. If you know that the girl likes you, then yeah, go for that. But if you're hesitant and you are insecure about it, you know, I think a private conversation or like a, hey, you know, I think you're awesome. You know, I'd love to take you to dinner or something like that, or I'd love to go with you to the dance or something like that. I think taking that approach, it'll save you a lot of worrying. It'll save you the humiliation, especially if you do get turned down in front of everyone. Which was a big thing at our school for some reason. The girls were brutal.
Oh,
Really?
Gosh. The girls are brutal. And girls, if you're going to turn down a guy, please try to protect his ego just a little bit. That's one of the most fragile things that a guy has, especially during high school. I went to a different school before I went to my Christian school, but the girls were even more brutal there. I mean, it was just flat out no. Like,
Man.
sorry. Like, it was almost from a point that they were too good for the guy.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's not cool.
Yeah, which is not cool. But, and guys, be realistic. Don't set yourself up for failure in the sense that you're going to ask the cheerleader out in front of everyone at the school dance or something like that, It's probably not going to work out because the cheerleader is thinking more of her image or is thinking more of, oh, how are my friends going to look then? Oh, this guy might be really nice or this guy might be really sweet. This guy might actually treat me well.
Yeah.
They're really not thinking about that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that's another thing with height that's so different in high school is, and I'm not we were all high schoolers at one point, so I'm not bashing high schoolers, but your perspective is so different in high school. You're so focused on how does this look? How cute is he? Does he play on the football team? And those are all really attractive things in high school where 10 years down the road, you're like, does he have a job? Does he love Jesus? Will he be nice to me? And I'm not saying you don't care about those things, but your priority list is so different in high school.
Yeah.
And that is going to play into these different scenarios. And so, if you've navigated that and that's hard, don't think you're alone because that's just high school in general, but that will get better as you get older.
You mature.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a maturity thing. And so we feel for y'all if you're in high school and you're listening and you're struggling with all of that and trying to balance all of that.
And the guys, if you're insecure in high school, just give it a little time. I don't know if y'all seen pictures of Elon Musk when he was working at PayPal, but he looked like the biggest nerd ever. I mean, would never get a girlfriend, but now look at him now. He just sent a rocket to the moon.
Yeah.
So did y'all watch that?
I watched so cool. People who were there filming it, but it's crazy. But yeah, high school is, whew.
And it's so funny because, we talk about, oh, high school's done and I'm done with that and whatever. How many times have we said over the last year, oh my word, this is like high school again. Oh my word,
that's so
I thought
true,
I was done
though.
with this in high school. You don't
parts
really
of it do carry over. That is true. That is true. Hate to break it to y'all. I'm so sorry.
I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but
and
let's
again,
be realistic.
Yeah, but I also think too that goes back to maturity. And when you're dealing with mature adults, you typically don't run into the same behavior patterns that you do with a 16-year-old.
Correct.
However, if you're dealing with somebody who's not as mature, you may run into those things again. So, and that's something to look out for, and you become more aware, because I'm looking back on it now, so it's easier for me to say this, but I'm way more gracious to a 16 or a 17-year-old when they behave this way, because it's kind of not the expectation, but
you know better.
Exactly. They're figuring this out and they're learning. When you're 28, you should not be dating like you're 16. And that's the difference. And so, there's grace as you're dating in high school because it's all new and you're learning and it's awkward and you're changing constantly and, you're trying to juggle a billion things at one time. And you would hope 10 years down the road that there would be some sign of progression in people's behaviors and maturity.
What you just said is what I always tell kids in high school when they're asking for dating advice. You said, it's fine, everyone's learning. That's what I tell people in high school is it's okay to feel insecure and not know what you're doing. Nobody else does either. Don't let your lack of knowledge stop you, because the person that you're worried about what they think, they don't know what they think either. So in high school, everybody's learning, so just be smart, honor the Lord, study the Bible, and go with it.
Yeah. It was cool. I was texting Brett a couple days ago. We were this wasn't dating or high school related, but it was a good analogy. He was talking about he's, starting up his business, and he's like, I've finally gotten over the mentality that everything has to be perfect from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And he's like, when I started playing basketball, I couldn't shoot well when I first started, but that didn't keep me from playing. Mm-hmm. I had to play, and the more I played and the more I practiced, the better I got, the better I, shot, and I became more successful as an athlete. And he's like, that applies to so many other areas of life because, and I struggle with this. That's one of the reasons I didn't even want to play sports, because I wasn't good at it at the beginning. And I'm like, if I can't be good at this immediately, we're not even going to go there.
That's how I am.
Yeah. And I get it if you have that mentality, but I would have missed out on so many things if I had not stuck through something that I was not good at the beginning. And dating is no different. And if you, are allowed to date in high school where you've got your parents there to guide you and you're learning, and, take advantage of the learning opportunities, because you'll take those with you for the rest of your life. So don't think you got to have it all figured out before you, even have your diploma. Yeah. So next question, Dylan, this is a two-parter. So part 1, are you ever just friends with a girl without wanting to date her? And with that, do you feel like when you want to date somebody, right off the bat that you want to date them? Or like, could you be friends with a girl for a while and then like a year down the road decide you want to date her?
So from personal experience, this is a little different, because Danielle had a lot of girlfriends in high school, and I would say I was friends with those girls. But I would never say I wanted to date any of them. But before I met Danielle, and before I, had a steady relationship, I didn't talk to a girl unless I wanted to date him, or thought there was some potential there. I mean, unless I sat next to them in class and had to talk to them, I usually did. Yeah. I was like, okay, if I had to do a project with a girl, I was like, okay, let's get this project done. But if I was interested in them, I talked to them. But yeah, I personally never would just be friends with a girl. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't something I did, because I never wanted to catch feelings for the girl and then jeopardize a relationship that could have been a great friendship, or vice versa. Go into something. A lot of this was out of fear. I never wanted to be put in the friend zone, because the friend zone, when I was in high school, the friend zone was like the meme on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, how to escape the friend zone. So I was always terrified of the friend zone. I never wanted to be in the friend zone. It was like purgatory.
That's a great comparison.
So good.
That's so good.
It's just waiting in limbo, trying to figure out what you want to do. But I do think it's possible to have a friend that's a girl that you can turn to. That I would say a lot of the friends that Danielle had, I was friends with. When we would hang out in big groups, I would hang out, but I would never hang out with those friends unless Danielle was there. Mm-hmm. I would not jeopardize my relationship because I thought that my friendship with Danielle's friends was more than was stronger than just the medium that Danielle was to that friendship.
That's good. I like that term, the median to the friendship. I think that's super important. So then, would you say then typically right off the bat if you like a girl or not?
Usually, yeah. I've always been pretty like, oh yeah, I like that girl. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times it wasn't just like, oh, that girl's hot. Like I usually had to, hear a girl talk, or talk to a girl first before I ended up knowing that I liked her.
So yeah, you knew pretty quickly. I know you knew quickly with her, but you...
Oh, yeah, with her.
But typically, I feel like that's been the general consensus, too, is that Danielle's facial expressions are killing me. She's like over there raising her eyebrows. No, you're fine. I love it.
Oh, you can tell what Danielle's thinking.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. So, fun fact about Danielle, this is not in the notes either. This is Stephanie's term that she talks about, facial diarrhea, which is where everyone can know exactly what you're thinking based on your facial expressions. Danielle is the queen of that.
That's hilarious.
So she can be over there and I can pretty much know exactly what she's thinking solely by the facial expressions she's giving me.
That's helped me a lot. Yeah. I know what Danielle's thinking. I like to tell people there was one time we built a fire pit out in our backyard during this corona vacation, as my family calls it. And she was sitting out by the fire, and I was putting some food on the grill for my mom. And Danielle asked, "What are we having to go with it?" And I said, I think it was a vegetable of some sort. It may have been zucchini. And Danielle's face, she didn't say anything. And I said, "Danielle, you'll be fine. Just please put it on your plate and eat it." And she goes, "I wasn't even saying anything." I'm like, "Danielle, I knew exactly what you were thinking. You were like, oh, that's disgusting. Why can't we ever have good food?"
She's probably like, okay, yeah, you're right.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. Yep. So.
Okay.
And sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this.
Oh, man.
She doesn't care. She doesn't
That's
care.
hilarious.
That is funny.
Okay, so that's kind of like the perfect transition to our next question. We've talked about you talking about how easy that is for you to tell what she's thinking because her face just says it all. So we've all heard forever and that guys don't pick up on like subtle cues, which I don't know. I think that varies with different guys. Some are more in tune to subtlety than others. So if we're keeping that in mind, what are some ways that girls can like show a guy they're interested and just go straight through that subtlety?
Going along the lines of just being outright with your intentions, I guess. Flirting was the main way that I've always picked up on it. Like I could definitely tell when a girl was flirting with me. Subtle compliments. Guys, especially nowadays, they like their shoes. You know, tell a guy they like their shoes. If they drive a big truck, tell them they like your truck. You may hate big trucks. You may think they are the worst things ever. But if a guy has put a lift on his truck or has put, you know, an exhaust on it, he's proud of it. It's same with all cars, unless he drives like a Prius. But like, no offense to Prius drivers, but they're not the coolest things.
Yeah.
But like, find something that a guy you can tell is proud of. You know, that he's put work into. If it's his schoolwork, if it's his sports, if he makes a great catch in a game, if he, you know, does great on a math test, if he ends up, you know, being valedictorian or whatever, you know, compliment him. Guys like to be recognized for the work that they've done. I know that's always something that I've liked, you know. Even when I had a bad game, Danielle would usually try to find something that I did well during the game and tell me about it. Or I'm big into cars, that's why I brought up the trucks, but she would always, you know, help me along with that. She'd listen to me about that and, you know, say like, "Hey, I like that with you, what you're doing." You know, things like that I've always found that have helped me know that a girl's interested.
I think that's good. Giving good compliment and I like that you said that she listens to you too. I think one of the best things, this is friendship, dating, whatever, if you can learn to listen well, even when you're not technically super interested in whatever it is they're talking about, it means a lot to the other person that you're engaged and you're, you know, trying to learn what they're talking about and you're asking follow-up questions. I think that's a great thing to learn to do, and it'll show the other person you value them and you care about what they care about and, you know, all of that.
Absolutely. If I knew that if I was talking to a girl and she wasn't on her phone, I knew that I had something there. You know, a big thing now. Everyone is in their phone, you know, texting, Instagram, Twitter, what have you. But if I knew that a girl's phone was down and off or face down and she wasn't checking it, I knew that she was interested.
Yeah, that's a great sign. We're very big proponents of not being on your phone on dates, particularly, but in general. Lindsay all yelled at us at dinner the other night because we were all on our phones.
Yeah.
So put your phone down, people.
It's like we've forgotten how to go to a restaurant.
I know. We kind of have.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Okay. 2 more questions, Dylan, and then you're off the hook. What would you say is the best way for a girl to start a conversation with a guy without it seeming too random? So kind of the backstory of this conversation. If I think a guy is really cute and he's somebody that I want to talk to, but I don't want to come across as like creepy or weird or awkward, and I want to kind of drum up a conversation, what's the best way to go about that?
I would go to the compliment thing. I think that's a great conversation starter. A lot of times in the customer service industry, they spark up a conversation with the customer. You compliment them on something, like, hey, if they're wearing a shirt from a band that you like, it's like, hey, I like that band. Do you listen to them a lot? You know, or have you ever been to a concert or something like that? You know, simple things that can segue into something else where you can get to know a person. This is a very weird example, and I had to shut it down because it was from another girl, and I'm still in a relationship. But this girl, she came to me where I was at the gym, and she goes, I was wearing a band shirt, I was wearing a Nirvana shirt, and she goes, "Hey, I like your shirt," and I was like, "Oh, thanks." And then she started talking to me, which of course I had to go, "Hey, look, I got a girlfriend. I can't be doing this,
Yeah.
this has turned to a point where I know that you're more than wanting just to talk to me." But I give her props. It was a great way to start a conversation. So leading with things like that, I would say, is a big thing that you can do.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, I like that. Add that to my personal playbook.
Your repertoire.
Yes.
Okay, so let's finish it up here. Last question. So most of our audience is girls. So this is your one chance to tell all the girls out there what you want them to know. So if you could tell...
No pressure.
Yeah, right. So if you could... But I mean, we're building it up, but it's no big deal. If you could tell girls listening a couple of things, whether it be about dating, relationships, singleness, here's your shot. What would you tell people? What would you want them to know just in general?
I like to bring everything back around to patience. I think patience has been great for all of those things. When it comes to singleness, being patient, knowing that God has a plan, knowing that something will turn around. It just may not be your time yet. Or if it's a relationship, if you're having a struggle, being patient with the other person. Don't be too patient to the point where it's hurting you, but still being able to listen and understand. And just patience with everything can ultimately, help out in every way. I think that has been my biggest strength in my relationship is patience.
No, that's really good.
I think
and
that's
very applicable and very true.
Yeah, for all dating stages, for sure. So, okay. Well, thanks for being here, Dylan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So fun.
fun.
I'm so glad we got to do this. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. As always, if you found this episode or any other of our episodes helpful, go tell a friend about us because we want to meet your friends and we want them to listen to Dylan too. So go do that, and then we will be back on Friday with another Couchcast. But until then, I'm Kristen.
And I'm Bethany.
And this is Looking for the Middle.